Welcome back to another recap and review of Love is Blind Season 8. Today I will be filming episode 2, so if you haven't seen episode 1 yet, check out the description box below for episode 1, or I'll put it in the cards up somewhere. My name is Peyton Hawes. This is my first time doing recap and reviews of Love is Blind, so please be patient with me as I'm figuring this out and seeing what works and what doesn't. I always appreciate feedback in the comments. And without further ado, let's get right into episode 2. All right, unlike the first episode, I actually decided to just take all of my notes from each couple and tell you everything that happened in the entire episode, couple by couple. That way I'm not jumping back and forth between couples all over the place. There's too many to keep track of. So I just went in chronological order from every couple they started showing in episode 2, and as soon as they started re-showing couples, I just added all of those notes to the original one. So we started off with Daniel and Taylor. Taylor tells Daniel that her dad's name is Daniel, which is kind of funny because there's someone else who, I think it was Dave. Dave or David is Lauren's dad's name too. Anyway, that was kind of random that Taylor's dad is also named Daniel, the person she is hitting it off with the most. My notes are over here, so if you see me just like, that's why I'm just like my notes. Taylor starts opening up to Daniel about how her dad had recently been diagnosed with a very rare form of cancer, and she has developed an extra soft spot for him since that happened, and she's felt a little bit guilty that it has taken an unfortunate circumstance to remind her of how important he is to her. But one of the first things that she started thinking about as a nurse and thinking worst case scenario in these kinds of circumstances was not having him standing right next to her, walking her down the aisle at her wedding. And that was really hard for her, which for me, I was like, whoa, makes sense as to why she's on Love is Blind and why she's like, I need to get married. I want my dad to be at my wedding, which I see both sides to that. I see how some people might say like, that is not a reason to jump into marriage. And other people are like, oh, I can totally understand why you would want that. My mom passed away of cancer, but she was able to be at my wedding before that happened. And now that she has passed away and my little sister is dating someone who she thinks might end up being the person that she settles down with, and she's like, oh, like my mom isn't even going to be able to meet him or let alone be at the wedding or anything like that. And that's really difficult for her. And my husband's dad passed away of cancer, and so he wasn't able to be at the wedding. So I've definitely had my fair share of circumstances in life where I can see why that feels so hard for people. And then Taylor says that she has one tattoo and it says Taco Bell on her inner lip. And she said Taco Bell, or not Taco Bell, tattoos in your mouth fade really quickly. So now it just says Taco B. But Daniel's joking that he would get a tattoo of Taco Bell as well. And she was like, no, I want you to get your favorite fast food place. And he goes, mine will probably Chick-fil-A then. And I literally wrote in my note, of course he would. He looks Mormon. Because I mean, look at him. Does he not look like a returned missionary of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints? Because he sure as heck does to me. And if you don't understand the reference with Chick-fil-A and Mormonism, then those who do. And that's what matters. Okay, next comes Sarah, Ben. They were actually not introduced in episode 1, so this is the time they are being introduced onto the show. Sarah says she doesn't have a main physical type. She likes lots of different things when it comes to men's physique, and the most important thing to her is that she needs to laugh. She needs to feel like she can have fun, and that sense of humor and connection and banter is there. She says she's religious, but she does believe in some type of higher power. And her sister is her best friend. With her sister being a part of the LGBTQ plus community, she wants to make sure that whoever she ends up with is going to be in support of that. And Ben said that he grew up in a strong Christian household, and that's really important to him. He believes in the Bible and that there's one true God who loves us. But he starts to affirm Sarah in this and says that he hates the word religion and he prefers faith. And I'm sure what he means by that is that religion oftentimes automatically depicts a strict or firm set of beliefs, where faith or spirituality can flow person to person. And he says that he'd be comfortable around Sarah's sister. And when she asks if he would go to Pride weekend with them, I feel like he hesitates, and he scratches his nose and says, and I scratching your nose doesn't automatically mean that you're lying. There's nothing in body language that automatically means that you're lying, but you start to pick up on certain patterns. But getting kind of itchy around the nose or face can indicate anxiety around something, and it can be anxiety around something that's being said. It can be anxiety around something that you're just thinking about or feeling. So it's just something I'm pointing out and I'm noticing, because I really like Ben so far. I don't have any feelings that I'm put off by when it comes to him. But I do get a very strong Christian vibe from him, and Sarah seems very skeptical of all of that, from her experiences with that. And I get that. We have people who are LGBTQ plus in my family, and I left an entire denomination of Christianity, if you will. I know a lot of Christians don't like to say that Mormons are Christians, but personally, if you believe that Jesus Christ died on the cross and was resurrected and he saved you, and you're spending your life in the rest of your life in a way to thank him and praise him and all that that, to me, that's Christianity. So anywho, so I understand a little bit this dynamic. I also noticed that he was saying things like, I have friends who are that way, or I know people who are like that. And I don't know if he just doesn't want to say gay because it is too specific and he wants to include the whole community. Why isn't he saying LGBTQ or LGBT? Or why is he saying I have friends who are like that, or people who are that way? I could honestly be reading into it way too much, because I'm a very open-minded person. I easily forgive people with genuine explanations and apologies, and I care so much more about people's intent than how things come off. But if something comes off a certain way, I'll pick it up and I notice it, and I either take note or talk about it or whatever the case may be. But I'm just taking note, and I'm going to keep watching and see how that plays out. But he did say that he wants a wife who will go to church with him every week. And Sarah said that she's open to finding a church that is accepting of people who are LGBT, but she just hasn't seen that. So I really like Sarah and Ben together. I think they get along on a lot of topics. They seem to have a good time together. The religious stuff does concern me, but we'll take note and we will reassess as time goes on. If you're a stay-at-home mom and you want a YouTube channel, just know that every 5 minutes you're gonna have to stop what you're doing to go help them. So I'm very hopeful that this channel takes off so that I can actually get paid by it or paid from it. So if you want to like and subscribe to help a stay-at-home mom, because I could really use it. So next we have Lauren and Dave. I like Lauren. So there wasn't really anything in their date that stood out to me. I know Lauren has concerns that Molly is dangling Dave in front of her face, and Lauren said she wants to marry Dave. She was like, she's trying to date the man I want to marry. And I was like, girl, please, no. Why? I don't get it, because there is nothing that the Love is Blind editors are showing that make me understand and even the slightest bit why she's interested in him. I don't get it at all. There's nothing explaining that. But then it moves on to Dave and Molly's date, and Dave finds out that Molly bought her own house, and she said it's small, it has room for her for now, but it works, and she's proud of herself for having been able to buy that, which is a thing to be proud of. I agree. Dave admits that he had cheated on a previous girlfriend, but he said he'd never do it again and that he feels really bad about it. And Molly said she assumed that that's what had gone on when he talked about not having integrity in the past. And so she opened up to him and said that she knowingly participated in someone else cheating on their girlfriend. So she knew this guy was with someone and she hoped for something with him in the future, which looking back, she knows was an icky thing to do. And so it just all blew up in everyone's face and wasn't good. And she thinks about when she wants to get married or have a partnership with someone, she wants it to be strong and secure, and she kind of thinks about it from another perspective. I have icky feelings around all of it, but I also can't imagine what it's like to have actively participated in something that you should not do. And now you have to carry that with you for the rest of your life, and you have to tell people that, or people who might, there's going to be circumstances where you have to talk about it. And that must also suck to feel like you have to carry a bad moment or decision with you forever. So I'm trying not to think about it too much. I know that was like a big red flag for me when I was dating. If I knew someone had cheated before, my feelings for them would pretty instantly fizzle away and I wouldn't be interested anymore. So it's just one of those things where easier to get out of this soon rather than having to think about that with someone I love so deeply down the road. Next we have Joey and Monica. I have a feeling they're gonna be the cute, adorable couple that kind of like, oh my gosh, what is their name? There's Cam and someone, oh, why am I drawing a blank on name from, is she from season 1? There's a really famous Love is Blind couple. The guy's name is Cam, I'm pretty sure. And I feel so bad I'm drawing a blank on the woman's name, but she's amazing. Their relationship is just sounds like beautiful, and I love the life that they've built together since Love is Blind. They have like a podcast now, social media, all this stuff. And I love them, but I feel like there's always a power couple where there's not really any drama, but there's just passion and love, and like, this is amazing. I have a feeling that's gonna be Joey and Monica. We're still in those beginning stages, but Joey has such a big personality, which I love as someone who is super extroverted, and I get so much energy from people. But I've been a stay-at-home mom. I had my first baby during COVID. I moved to a completely different state and got married and started a life in a state that I never lived in before, and started having kids around COVID, like I said, and dealt with all of these things. And my mom, who was one of my best friends, passed away. And I, as a stay-at-home mom and being in my house after all of this stuff happened so quickly, and not put in situations to be social with other adults often. So I've kind of developed this level of social anxiety because I don't get a lot of practice talking to other adults. And so when people have just really big personalities, it just feels like, oh, I can be comfortable to be my full, authentic, silly, fun self because I don't feel like I have to sit here and guess what's going to be okay or not okay around other people, because I'm a read the room kind of person. And if everyone's just quiet, I don't really know how to act. I'll just kind of mimic. And so I don't know why I do that, but once there's someone there who's loud and opens up, then I feel like I can do the same, which is kind of weird because in high school, I was the person who would initially be loud and open up in hopes that it would help other people to do that. So I have goals of being that person again one day, but I don't know. So I love his big personality, and I'm just loving them together. They have such fun, caring personalities. And Monica was talking about feeling guilty about being in between jobs while she's caring for her family. And I was literally sobbing watching this part of Love is Blind. I was on my period, don't come for me. But Joey reassures her and says that you shouldn't feel guilty about taking care of your family. And I love that you're the kind of person that would do that, that would do something uncomfortable and scary for the people that you love, and that you're taking care of them, and that just shows what kind of woman you are. And I love that so much. And I just loved that he was also reassuring her in that moment. And my husband did the same thing for his dad when his dad was sick and passing away. He had come home early from his Mormon mission, and he was living at home with his parents. And he I think he was only working a part-time job so that he could help in some way, but like, he wanted to be there for his dad. And that, so I just have like a really tender spot in my heart for that circumstance as well. But then Joey proposes to Monica. So this is the first proposal. Kind of weird. He said, "Would you get engaged with me?" That is the words he used. Now, he could have just been nervous, but I don't know. Sometimes I almost feel like on Love is Blind, you almost have to be okay with an engagement that might not turn into marriage. And like, what if there was a part of him that was thinking that, like, I can get engaged and feel this out in person and have a few more weeks before I decide whether or not I want to get married. And maybe in his head, instead of saying, "Will you marry me?" he's like, "Will you get engaged with me so we can continue to see if this is something we want to do?" Which honestly, I think that tactic could work in Love is Blind. Because if you had to propose and get married right after there's the reveal and then there's a whole ceremony, that would be absolutely insane. That would be insanity. But the fact that people have opportunity to meet family and see what it's like to live with you and all of this stuff makes a little bit more sense. So I wonder if he worded it like that on purpose. I don't know, just something I noticed. Now we're back to Alex and Madison. I'm starting to wonder about Alex a little bit because I really liked Alex, but as all of us know, there is some drama going on in the Love is Blind world, and I'm trying not to look too into it because I want to watch the series as it's playing out and not have spoilers if I can help it. But supposedly, the person who seemingly are the very first episode, they're like, "Oh, I believe he knew what I looked like the entire time. He knew it was me," all of this stuff. Supposedly, people are saying that whoever this guy is was a realtor. And I think there were 3 people in the Love is Blind cast that were in that type of workspace, and Alex is one of them. I'm hoping it's not him because that would be like a really false judge of character. And I feel like I'm pretty good at judging people's character, and nobody's perfect. I feel like I can see things that people struggle with and things that where people have people's strengths and weaknesses. I feel like I can point those out in people pretty well without judging the weaknesses, because I have weaknesses. We all have weaknesses. And I think our weaknesses can be made strengths through time and learning and experience. So I don't ever judge them either for the most part. But I feel like I've really liked Alex so far. He has some weaknesses due to experiences he's had growing up, but so does Madison, so does everybody else. So I'm just like, I feel like overall he really tries to be a good guy. He seems that way. So I hope it's not him. But I really like that he asks Madison how she handles conflict. So he wants to get more serious topics coming in when it comes to a relationship. How are we going to manifest together? And he's like, "How do you handle conflict in a relationship? Do you yell or anything like that?" Which I think is such a good question. That was something my husband and I talked about when we were dating. I was like, "Dude, I cannot handle anger and yelling. If you're the kind of person that gets pissed off and yells, I can't handle that. Slamming doors, huffing and puffing around, or screaming. I cannot handle that." So let's see. She says instead of getting mad or violent during conflict, she tends to get more logical. And she said her dad would yell and get angry, and that's not who she wants to be, which I could totally see that. She gives a very calm, she has an edgy but calm aura at the same time. Very artistic. I feel like a lot of artists can be like that. Different types of artists do different things, but I feel like painters or people who do that kind of thing, I feel like you can have this an edgier, more artistic style. I feel like a lot of, I don't know, I'm getting into like the psychology of things. It's fine. But so she says she was shocked that Alex has never cheated on anyone, but he was cheated on. He said he was lived with a partner for 2 years and he saw some texts, and long story short, they ended things. He was cheated on, and Madison is like, I'm so sorry you had to deal with that. She was genuinely shocked that he had never cheated. Almost she expects people to have cheated on her, or people to cheat on her, or men just cheat or something like that, which is so sad that she thinks that way. But she did say she's been cheated on multiple times. And then they start talking about attachment styles, which I also think is cool because I love psychology stuff. And I feel like I have a mixture of attachment styles. I had different attachment styles for different parents. I think I know I had an avoidant attachment style with my dad who raised me. And I think for the most part, I teetered at different points of my life between an anxious and secure attachment with my mom. I had both, and my dad is probably anxious and avoidant, but more avoidant, how I felt with him. And I know in therapy, there's been a lot where my therapist has talked about me displaying signs of having an anxious attachment with my husband, and that wouldn't have been anything because of my husband, which I know, because I'll think, why am I thinking this way, or why am I doing this when he's never given me reason to do this or think this way. And he talks about why it's derived from childhood. So I want to learn more about it. I also have a daughter with autism, so she displays signs of avoidant attachment style, but that's really common in children with autism to show those signs but not actually feel that on the inside. So I want to learn more about it, but I thought it was so cool that they were talking about this. And Alex says he has an anxious attachment style, while Madison says that she has an avoidant attachment style, which I think is something to talk about before marriage and is something to feel out and see how you can handle that together. I don't think that that means a relationship won't work by any means. I just think that that means you have to have great communication in order to make that work. I kind of feel like my husband and I had things like that in the beginning of our marriage where I was constantly like, does he love me? Is he gonna leave me? I need to do everything I can to make sure he's the happiest husband on earth, and constantly thinking he's upset or something like that. And he would just be like stressed about finances and just not talking about it. And he's just in his head. And I'm like, are you okay? And he's just like, I'm fine. Everything's good. And I'm like, you're fine? Because you don't look fine. And I just like start freaking out because it's like, it's obvious you're not okay and you're not telling me why. So I'm in my head thinking you're going to leave me in worst case scenario. Meanwhile, he's just like, man, how are we going to pay the car payment this month? And I'm like, just tell me that. Just tell me that that's what you're thinking. And so we've had to develop a lot over the years, our communication and we're still working on it all the time, but we've come so far from where we were in the beginning. And I've learned that there's no reason for me to get as anxious as I used to get with him. I'm becoming a lot more secure. And he's learned that he doesn't need to keep everything to himself to avoid giving stress to me or spreading it around. My nose is runny. I'm not touching my nose because of anxiety or lying, like I was saying with Ben earlier. I just have a runny nose and it's kind of scratchy. Oh, so Collins learned not to keep everything to himself, and how when he keeps it all to himself, he can make things bigger than they need to be in his head. And he's learned that if he just comes to me and says, here's what I'm thinking about and feeling, it's like he can take it out of his brain, dump it out in front of him, actually look at it, talk about it, communicate it, and be like, oh, it's not actually that big of a deal like I thought it was. Or, oh, I actually thought of a way that we can manage this or figure this out. And so I think he's become a lot more secure in communicating and talking about things that are on his mind, and feeling like that actually made me feel a lot better. And I feel safe bringing this with you, knowing like I'm not going to get attacked or judged for what I'm thinking about or feeling, and you're going to be there for me. And I know that I don't have to be anxious thinking about what's on his mind or what is he doing, because I've learned that how he works and how he processes things and how to get him to the point of communicating and being okay with that and knowing that I don't have anything to worry about. I don't have any fear whatsoever that he's going to leave or is whatever. I will instantly say, "Are you okay?" If the energy is off and he said if he says he's fine, it doesn't feel like you're fine. And sometimes when I'm not picking up that energy and you're saying that, it can feel a little gaslighting. I feel a little gaslit. Are you stressed about the house? Do we need to clean up? I'll just start. I am so much more open with my communication now than I used to be because I've learned that it actually helps solve the problem. So even though we had different ways of processing our emotions or handling conflict, through communication, we've learned and we're slowly becoming a little bit more secure with one another. It just is taking time and communication. So I know this is supposed to be about Love is Blind, but I just wanted to explain from my personal experience why I feel like the attachment is important to talk about, and it's something that could cause problems, but it's not something that means that things aren't going to work out, in my experience and opinion. So Alex seems to back off a little bit when he hears that Madison is an avoidant attachment style. That scares him because of reasons I was just talking about, where he's like, I need to feel secure that you're going to be there when hard times hit and that we can talk about it and that we're going to be able to get through this together and that you're not going to run when things get hard, which is totally understandable. And he's a little bit worried that I had such typos in my notes. I had to read that 400 times. I was like, what are you writing, Peyton? Anyway, so Alex seems worried that Madison will have some PTSD moment that she feels like she needs to sit with, and he is going to want to help her, and he's nervous that with that being something that's out of his control and not being able to help her, that will be hard for him. I think that that's just something that good men have to deal with because everyone, there are constantly things going on that we don't have control over. The only control we have over is our own thoughts, words, actions, behaviors, emotions, moods, whatever. We have control over that. We don't have control over other people's. And when other people have past traumas and things like that, and they're going to have moments where they're remembering them or having flashbacks and they're having a hard time, and there's nothing that you can do except let that person feel those feelings and get through it and be there for them when they're ready. You're just going to have to do that. You can't fix everything. And something that I love that my husband does is when I am like, I have all this on my mind, blah, and what if this happens, blah, 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 blah. And he'll say, is this one of those times where you want me to listen and empathize and be here for you and comfort you? Or do you want me to help you figure it out and fix it? Because I don't always just want to be listened to. Sometimes I actually want help figuring something out. So I like that he gives me both options, because there's been plenty of times where he's like, well, what if you do this and what if you do that? And I'm like, I just want you to understand where I'm coming from and my feelings, and I just want to feel understood. Sometimes that's where I'm at. So there's that. But I love Madison's self-recognition and her desire to grow despite her past. She reminds me a lot of myself, and that I've had extremely traumatic things happen to me in my life, and how it's had me throw up huge walls in my life and made me really hard-headed at times. And I've learned how to bring those walls down and soften up a bit and be open to being hurt again, because you have to be open to getting hurt again in order to be open to finding love and those kinds of things. When you put up all those walls to avoid getting hurt, you're also avoiding love and connection and those kinds of things. And so her trying to bring those walls down and grow as a person and be more comfortable with things that are out of her control, and trying to go after things that make her feel loved and happy and bring her joy, just reminds me of myself in a way. And she's definitely the one in the group that I feel like I would be friends with so far. She's one that I feel like I could be friends with a lot of these girls. A lot of them are great, but Madison feels like the one that I'd probably click with, where I'd be like, we could talk for hours and hours and hours and never get tired of hearing each other, I feel like. just trauma bonding. And I don't think there's anything wrong with trauma bonding. Finding people who've been through some dark ass shit, it's you might get me on another level. So we've been through different things, but probably similar levels of trauma in the ways that it's had us move on throughout our lives. I have a girl crush on her, honestly, at the same time. She's also extremely attractive. I cannot believe that y'all were sitting there the whole time and didn't even tell me I had butthole lip. This is the rudest thing you've ever done to me. It's so rude. It's probably because I'm drinking this. And I know people are gonna be like, oh my gosh, haven't you been sick? You shouldn't be drinking that. And I'm like, dude, I kid you not. Everything hurts my stomach except for these energy drinks, which I'm only having one per day. And actually, there were multiple days where I did not have them at all because I couldn't consume anything without just retching. Sorry, TMI. But I can't even drink water. I still can't drink water today. It hurts my stomach so bad. I'm putting lemon in it and electrolytes and sometimes those True Lime packets. There's strawberry, whatever. I don't know. I'm putting those in my water and then literally even I put this in it. I have an aunt who is a witch doctor. She's not a witch doctor. She's a nurse and she's in school to become a nurse practitioner, and she owns several IV therapy clinics in Idaho. And she is the crunchiest mom I know. And so I go to her for crunchy mom advice. This, she would say, honey, stop. She would tell me, but she did tell me to put these electrolytes in everything I drink. And I have POTS, so don't listen to me for doctor advice. I have POTS, which is an autoimmune disorder that affects my blood circulation and my hydration levels. I naturally don't absorb electrolytes from most things, and I pee all of them out when I have them. So I have to add a shit ton of these to everything I drink. So I turned my energy drink into an electrolyte drink. And really, I just think about it like a balance because caffeine dehydrates you. But I'm like, what if I put the electrolytes in it? It's like water. I know it's a problem. Leave me alone. Let's move on. Next, we have, what's his name? Madison and Mason. Where's her thing? I literally have Madison and Alex's notes put together because I shipped them. And then I have Mason and Meg's notes together because I shipped them. So I have to go to separate notes to check out Madison and Mason's interactions. Honestly, I'm gonna figure out a better way to take notes. I'm new here. All of a sudden, I'm getting a burst of energy. Am I healing on camera? Why do I look like a grandma? I also think I have ADHD sometimes. I've been diagnosed with so much stuff. I'm just like, what does a human mean? Honestly, I'm just a human being. Madison and Mason. So I feel like Mason and Madison have, or Mason has more of a sexual chemistry with Madison. I don't think that they really, I don't know. I feel like they get along as friends and then there's sexual chemistry, but I don't know if they would get along on like a deep, intimate level. I feel like Alex and her could. But I do see certain roadblocks with Alex and her as well that could be managed with proper communication and learning each other and figuring each other out. And I actually worry more about Alex leaving because he seems so anxious where he overthinks everything, where he could leave in fear that she's going to leave, or I don't know, if he doesn't communicate properly. Maybe that's because that's how I've thought in the past. Anyway, so I'm not really vibing with them as a couple, but I do think they'd probably have fun being friends with benefits with each other, or they might date for a little bit and then realize it's not going to work. That's just the vibe I get from them. So then it goes to Mason's date with, oh my gosh, where'd it go? Meg. And they both said that they've never lived with anyone before. So there's a part of me that feels like you should live with someone for a little bit before you decide to marry them. But I can understand people's perspectives on both ends, where some people would rather not live with someone until they're married. I see where people are coming from on both sides with that. But it's definitely something to take note of. If you've never had to deal with somebody else's way of living or life, it is an adjustment because not everything that we do and the way that we do it is the way that it has to be done. But sometimes we feel that way because it's subconscious and it's a habit. And if somebody comes in and does it differently and you're like, Bro, if you just fold the towels in a tri-fold, you save so much room in the closet. If you fold it quarterly like that, it takes up so much more room. And it's like, who cares? He freaking folded the laundry and put it away. How about you say thank you and have a glass half full? And this is like me talking to my past self with actual things. Or like, why are you putting the silverware down in the dishwasher? It's not going to get cleaned very well. It needs to be up so that the water and the soap could splash it off and clean it. And he's like, because I don't want to. Oh, no, no, no. That's what he told me. He told me that it needs to go up so it cleans properly. When I would always put them down, because when I'm unloading the dishwasher, I want to grab the handles of the silverware and pull them out to put them away. I don't want to touch where everyone's going to put their mouths. And he's like, well, if you just have clean hands when you're doing the dishes, it's fine. They're going to get cleaned better in the dishwasher if they're facing up. And I was like, ugh. I fought him on it for a while. And then after a while, I was like, that does make more sense. And so I started doing it that way. But yeah, there's certain things where it's just like, maybe I felt like I could have done something kind of better than he did it. Or maybe he did something in a way where I feel like there's an alternative method that makes more sense. And then he just feels like, dude, I'm just trying to help and I'm getting put down every time I'm trying to help you. And I'm like, I'm being kind of a bitch. I'm so sorry. So sorry. I'm so thankful that you swept the floors. I'm so thankful that you took out the trash. I'm so thankful that you put laundry away. Why I'm over here, like, you need to fold it in trifolds and you need to put the dishwasher and thing down and you need to make sure that you miss the spot over here and blah. How much of a bitch can you be? It's not that big of a deal. But it can become a big deal when people are absolute hoarders and you are the clean freak. Now, I have turned my husband into a slight clean freak. He was not a clean freak. He did not care at all when I met him. I am diagnosed very severely OCD. I don't care how other people live their lives. I don't care if other people are living in a hoarder situation or they're not showering, whatever. If it's not affecting me, I don't care. It's not my life. I care so much about my hygiene. I care so much about how clean everything is, and I've had to work really hard on the cleanliness of my home aspect of it since having kids, because it's absolutely impossible to have every single room in the house clean at all times with children. Maybe once they go to school, I'll be able to keep up, but I've had to learn to take a step back a little bit and work on it. And so people can change, and my husband has become a lot more nervous about messes and whatnot. And I think for him, he just doesn't like the time that has to be taken away from time where he could be doing something fun and playful with the kids or getting some work done, like that he has to be cleaning instead because there's always messes. And so we try to do like a clean as we go kind of thing. But since we've been sick, everything's been so messy. Literally, I filmed yesterday and I'm filming today, and my room is like, it's decent. And I cleaned up this morning, so it's a bit better. There's a lot more work that needs to be done. But I kid you not, the amount of times that I have just pushed everything out of view so you can't see how messy it is. That just happens sometimes. And you're like, I thought you're OCD. I'm like, I also think I'm ADHD and I have children, so leave me alone. Gosh, why do I keep talking about my own problems on here? Meg says that she likes the name Zaddy with a Z, Zaddy. She said that she likes to be called baby girl. And so Mason starts calling her that and she's like, oh my God, say it again. And Colin has called me baby girl a couple of times. And at first, I almost died and went to heaven because I love if he calls me anything other than babe, because that's the instant go-to for both of us. And so when he said that, I was like, because I told him, even if you just say baby and it's slightly different from babe, I'm just like, so when he said that, I felt like my heart was melting. Then I realized one of my dads calls me baby girl all the time. And then all of a sudden I was like, please don't call me that. I like being called that, but because I've associated my dad with calling me that, I'm just like, it's not like he can't call me that in general. There's just certain times where certain things are going down and I don't want to be called that and have certain people pop into my head when I'm trying to just have you in my head. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, you picking up what I'm throwing down? But Yeah, so Meg says she wants to move outside the city and she wants to buy land. And Mason is like, you're literally an AI bot just saying everything that I would want to hear coming out of a girl's mouth. Then she brings up the movie Her, and Mason just about explodes because he was talking about that movie in his last date with Madison and how much he loves it. And Madison had never seen it before, but because Meg had seen it and brought it up, he was like, there's no way you just brought that up right now. This is crazy. And then they start talking about their favorite movies. And she's like, my number one, what's your number one favorite movie? And he goes, I think it's Interstellar or Inception. I think it was Inception. I should watch that. I've never seen it. And she's like, no way, that's my number one favorite movie. No way. And is freaking out. And they're just having so many more moments of you just said exactly what's on my mind. And I think that's why I like ship them. But I think those are my feelings so far about them. So for the last little love triangle we've got going, we've got Devin with Virginia and Brittany. So let's see. And I don't even know who I ship at this point. I think I know who he proposes to. I was about to say it out loud because I feel like there was a clip where I saw one of the girls reacting when the doors opened, and both of these girls only vibe with Devin, I'm pretty sure. At least that they're showing on camera so far. And so I feel like Love is Blind freaking gives freaking spoilers in all of their things. I saw an image of her just being like, or reacting, and I was like, so does he pick her? And honestly, where I felt like I was really 50-50, there was a part of me that was let down a little bit because I was like, oh, I feel like he vibed with the other girl so much more and he would have liked her so much more. But then at the same time, I still really like this other girl. The girl that I think he might choose, I feel like I would be friends with her. I feel like I like her a lot. And the other girl sounds like people he's dated in the past. And so maybe that's not worked for him. Maybe he needs something different. I don't know. I still feel so 50-50 about it. But Devin says that so right now he's on a date with Virginia. And he says that he's used to dating sporty basketball player, athletic type girls in the past. And Virginia was like, oh, I didn't know that, because she's super girly. She's in this frilly dress and heels. She said she was a girl in high school who wore high heels to school every day. And he's like, no way you did. And she's like, ask about me. And she's like, just kidding. And so she seemed a little like taken back. She's like, oh, maybe he's not gonna like how girly I am. And I think he could pick up on that vibe. And he's like, you're athletic though. You were a dancer. That's athletic. That's an athlete. And she's like, thank you for recognizing that. And I was like, yes, because I did competitive cheerleading for a while. And so any guy who will say that dancing or cheerleading or any of that stuff is a sport, I'm just like, you freaking get it. Or you're being a pick me. Could be either. But I think Devin gets it. But let's see. And Virginia said that she's really just dated self-centered men in the past, and Devin doesn't really seem that way, which he really appreciated her saying that. And I'm guessing that Virginia loves words of affirmation because she just sat there and just like and affirmed Devin and who he is as a person and his soul and how she makes him feel and how she hopes to make him feel. And all of these things, she was so good at just delivering these feelings and thoughts and emotions in such a beautiful, meaningful way. And you can tell Devin was like, oh, that just put me in my feels, man. And he was just affirming her. And you could tell just the simplest affirmation from him made her go, thank you so much for saying that. And so I'm picking up a words of affirmation vibe from her. I'm a words of affirmation girly, so I think I really just lean into hearing those kinds of things. But then he goes into a date with Brittany, and let's see. And then Brittany, everyone's been having connections with people where it's the same. The girl's dad's name is the same as the connection. That happened with Daniel and Taylor, and that happened with Lauren and Dave. I feel like there's someone else. But so where this isn't directly happening with Brittany and Devin, because Brittany's dad is not Devin, Brittany's dad's name is Willie, and Devin's dad name is Willie, and both of their dads are junior from their dad's being Willie, which I thought was kind of cool. They both also love gospel music and were able to connect with that kind of thing. And Devin said in one of the side interviews that he feels really 50 about each of these girls, these women, and he feels like he could definitely be getting down on one knee for one of them. And it's such a weird, difficult position to be in because he has feelings for each of them in very unique ways and they're different, but he vibes with both of them really well, which I don't know, because now I'm thinking about who I think he ends up choosing, because I'm not trying to give spoilers. But if he ends up choosing who I think he does, it might end up working on a more intimate level, where the other girl, it might be more of we could really vibe as great friends. Anyway, well, that was the end of episode 2. Episode 3, we'll have the reveal with Joey and Monica. Those are Friends characters' names. Our Friends couple. Cute. Anyway, so if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe. I literally mean that. Please don't just hear that and think like, wow, everyone says that. If you're not subscribed, please subscribe. Seriously, please. Really watching my videos counts more than the subscribers. So if you're just watching them, that would be great. I'm going to be putting all these Love is Blind recaps and reviews into a playlist, so I'll be making sure to put that in the description box below. I'll see you guys in episode 3. Love you. Bye!